Hello there folks, how's it going? Hope you're ready to play with some shapes in After Effects, morph them, trim them, massage them, blow them up, whatever you want to do. But they're a lot of fun. So let's figure out how to do it. So we are in After Effects, of course, and we want a new composition, and you'll see mine has defaulted to the previous setting, so 500 by 500, 30 frames a second, 3 seconds maximum. I like to get the background color a little sort of off blacks just because so I know what is visible and what's not. And of course we want to change our name to A1 preloader. Your name, not, please spell it right, VDK, and of course version 1. And as always I would copy that. Control A or Command A, copy it into your clipboard, because once you start building and then you go to save, you'll notice that you go save and you can just go paste and have that fired right in there. So you're good. So we want to play with shapes. So you can right off the top just go get your pen tool and play with whatever shape comes to your fancy, and then this literally works exactly the same as Illustrator. There's a few sort of keyboard shortcuts that will take some getting used to. It works a little differently, like I'm holding down Control or Command and it'll take that one out. So, if you wanted to create, hey, let's create some kind of figure eight. Let's do that. So, of course, this is not going to work. We need to reset that. All right, something like that doesn't honestly matter, Neil. Nobody cares, but you, except you. So, okay, so we have our shape. Now, when we go down into this shape layer, which all shape layers start with this little, or they have that star icon, you'll see that there's transform, and that's for the entire layer. So if I were to scale this, rotate it, it's not affecting the actual shape, it's affecting the entire layer. And the beauty thing about shapes is that we can drill down or twirl down into the contents, and you'll see shape 1. And here we actually have the exact same transform options as we do for the entire layer. But we can have 100 shapes in a single layer, just like in Illustrator. And then you have the option of animating the actual shape. So this is where we can create a keyframe for our mask path or our path, and of course we want to go right to the end and make another keyframe so that we know it's gone back to the original right there. And then I'm going, say, here, and now this is where After Effects is a bit different than Illustrator, because there's just the sort of general selection tool. But if you keep the pen tool, you'll see that if you hover over this, it'll turn to the general selection tool, and our anchor points are solid squares. So we need to, if I click on drag on that, it's going to move the entire shape, and I've made a keyframe, which I don't want to do. So I need to hold down Control or Command and click away, and then you'll see that they turn to solid circles. And now I can go and click on one of those anchor points and sort of, well, do whatever you want to do with it. Let's just squish it down, something like this. I don't know what I'm doing, but it's gonna look just great. Alright, so now we have that keyframe. So now I know that this is going to go here and then squish back to it, to the original shape. How about we even go right to the middle, and we'll just grab these ones and just make it into a giant ball, something like this. Oh wow, that didn't work at all. So we want to go like that, and here we're going to take these and move them up. So it's going to twist inside and out. Whoops, there we go. There you go. There's a preloader for the record books there. Yep, that's going to be a beauty. So you know, maybe you don't do something so ridiculous, but one of the great things about this is that, you know, this is a path, and you can actually copy paste paths from an active window in Illustrator, but I'll get into those very, very soon. The big, aside from shape morphing, the really big, the most used element of shapes is to add an animator. So we're going to go right in here and click on this little add function or add animator, whatever you want. And there's all kinds of options, really lots to be learned in here. But you know, even to the initial shape, you can just put these kind of effects on it, like pucker and bloat, round corners if they are sharp, twist, wiggle, zigzag, all kinds of fun. But really, the main thing here is trim paths. So I'm going to click on that trim paths, and just to you know, so that this isn't so ridiculous, I'll just get rid of that the path there. And so I'm on trim paths, and I have a start, an end, and an offset. So if you just play with this, you'll see that depending on where you started the drawing, it will draw itself on or draw itself off. Alright, so I'm going to create a keyframe for start and end. The offset is offsetting where that start and end is, and I'll show you that in a sec. So of course I have those two keyframes. I want to go to the end and make the same keyframes. Or actually, you'll see in a sec that we're going to sort of cheat that. So I've got start, and in the middle I want it to completely draw itself off completely. And then what I'm going to do is take this guy here, because if I just leave that, watch, it's going to go here, and then it's going to draw itself backwards, basically, right? It's going to undo what we did. And I don't want to do that. So there's a little trick. I'm going to take these two keyframes, and I'm going to go ahead one keyframe, and instead of this being 100 and 100, I'm going to go from 0 and 0. And actually what I'll do instead is just start that from 2 maybe. Let's see, I'm going to hit the page down key to see what the increments are. Yeah, about 2, so 98, and then it's drawn itself off completely, and then it's drawing itself on. And maybe I want that to be, no, that can stay there. So now if I hit play, man, that drawing is awful. But we could have traced the letter A, or the number 8, and have it draw itself on and off. So a little cheat there to go from 100% and then flip right back down to 1%. And maybe I will take this so that don't want it to be like that. Yeah, I just don't like that it disappears completely, but what we can do is we can play with that in a second. What I would really like to show you the most is that, I mean, really, this is never what you'll see on any kind of motion path, like a trimmed path. And what you can do is twirl down into the stroke and go to the line cap, and it defaults to a butt cap, and you can change that to a round cap. And now you'll see this gorgeous little drawing here. And there you go. You've got your first sort of trim pathed shape layer. Now this trim path thing, it has to be on a stroke. You can bring in Illustrator files and play with them. So what I'll do is I'll just show you real quick. I'll just double click and bring in a logo here. Let's go to logo hexmark. Sure. And when you're bringing in an Illustrator file, you need to make sure that to import it as composition retain layer sizes. This is critically important because if you leave it as footage, it will just come in flattened. So we want to bring in composition retain layer sizes and then click open, and you'll see it actually creates a whole composition. But in this case, I'm just going to go grab that logo, so you can see here the layers come in too. I'll grab that logo just to show you about it. So right now, and I'll turn off that shape layer. The logo is it's an Illustrator file, and you'd think that it would work just like a shape layer, but it doesn't. Even though it's exactly the same, it is a vector graphic. And you can, if you click on this little continuously rasterize button, you can scale it up to 1 billion and it'll be perfect. But in order for us to be able to turn this into a shape layer, to massage any of these points, what we have to do is right click and go up to create shapes from vector layer. And really all you're doing is converting it into a file format that After Effects can understand. So we do that, and you'll see it turns off the eyeball for that original layer. It's created a brand new shape layer, and you'll see, you can actually see here that it has, if you go drill or twirl down into contents, it's created, every single one of those is now a single group. And I can go and drill down into that group and see, okay, that's that path there. I could animate, I could put trim paths on all of these or all together. If I wanted to do an animator for all of them, what I would have to do is actually, you can see in these animators there's a group. I would actually have to group them again, and really group is basically just like a folder in Photoshop or a smart object where you're putting them all together. So I'm going to add a group, and you can see it's put that group inside this group, so that's useless. So I'll put that right up at the top, take it out of that group, and shift select and put all of those in one group. And now, excuse me, now I can add a trim paths right down at the bottom, and let's see if it'll work. So now you can see it's drawing out every single one of those from the start. And let's try something interesting. We'll go 50 and 50 for both of them. And it's going to go to say 1, and we'll go draw yourself on and complete. Yeah, so this one will draw itself on and off. So let's see. So it looks pretty good. We would maybe take that, the circle, maybe take it up, everything kind of goes from left to right, which is a bit, yeah, it's nice. You just take those keyframes, move them to here, say, so that it'll maybe draw itself on. And then what we can do is play with this. So I'll take that, maybe make it a bit faster. Take those keyframes, Command or Control C, Command or Control V to paste them there. And instead I'm going to go 0 and 100. Is that going to, or maybe go back to 50-50? Oh, actually, sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. So it's drawing itself on. We're going to take those same keyframes and paste them so that really nothing should happen. Nope. Control. Yeah. So this should remain the same. So I'm going to go back again. This is a little trick. I'm going to go ahead one frame and now go back to that same sort of 50-50. I think that's what I want. No, I want 100 and 0. Or do I want 0 and 100? 0 and 100. Yeah. So I wanted to, I'm basically flipping that so that now I can go ahead of time here and it will draw itself on again. So, or draw itself off, sorry. So there you go. Maybe it'll go to 50 and 50. All right, so I'm just going to bring in that one here and maybe that there. And let's see how it looks. Yeah, so I don't really like that it's drawing itself on completely and then removing itself the same way. I want it to do the opposite. So let's go. I'm hitting J. If you hit J or K, it will move between the next visible keyframe, which kind of works really well. 100 to 100, 0 to 100, and then it goes to 50-50. So that's what I think I wanted. Yeah. Yeah, I like that it's going from 50-50 there. I want it to do the same thing. 50. I don't know that this is going to work though. Or maybe it's minus 50. Is that going to work? No. So 50, 50. So it's going from there 50 and that's going to 100 and then it's going to 50 again. So it's just removing itself. I could play with the offset maybe. Let's see if I trick us with the offset. I'll go one keyframe forward and I'll take that offset to 180. Yes, so I'm tricking it by the offset. There we go. So yeah, this needs to come a little more forward. We don't need that much time, do we? I don't think. There you go. And so now again, of course, this is all flat. So we want to grab that group and transform. Nope. Transform. I want to grab, yeah, group 21. And the problem in here is that I would actually have to go and, okay, you can drill down into 1 and change it to round cap, but you can still see that this is highlighted, and that's only done the outside, right? Because that's only the first bit of it. So I can click and hit that, copy it, and highlight the rest of my groups and paste, and it should have rounded everything out. Yeah, or it had already. yeah, so that's, how you can work with logos and do that same sort of trim paths idea. What I would suggest is, if you're going to do something like that, that you don't necessarily have it completely, have it completely off, like remove itself completely. Unless you're sort of animating this thing as well, like what we could do is just have a simple position keyframes, so that as it's drawing itself on, it moves to, maybe that is the final position, and it moves maybe from there. So it's going to draw itself on, and then as it removes itself, it moves itself to the right. And you could put some easy ease on that. And then the great thing about this now is, because it's a full layer full of all that stuff, we could duplicate it. So Command and Control D. We could play with blend modes. We could scale it down ever so slightly. So even if I just do that and go down to toggle switches modes and play with some kind of blend mode. I'm a big fan of keyboard shortcuts, so I have the layer selected. I'm holding down Shift and plus, and I'm cycling through all of the available blend modes. And then here it might do some interesting, once you get down to the bottom where it's it gets into the alpha channels, then we get some really interesting options. Maybe a little too much. Maybe we need to scale it down just a bit more. You can see how it's like, that's really neat. So I could have this scaling up through it. Wow, that's really neat actually. Oh boy, no it's not. It's too much. So best to take that, let's go with 90. Take out those scale. And then if you're ever doing that kind of thing, just take that second one down, so that it's maybe just a little hint of that. And I'm not a big fan of things just being on and off, like stopping, starting like this. I would prefer to get this stuff and like have it almost right away, sort of cycling through. So it's a little more fluid. And you can, like even this one, we could take it and have it going a little faster. Like the great thing about After Effects is you're, you can just play and play and play and play forever. All right, so yeah, that's what I tend to do. And yeah, just have fun with it. The main part here is that you want to stay on brand. So you can't mess with the logo too much. Or if it's a simple shape, you want to make sure that the color scheme stays on brand. And you're following the directions of your client. All right, so that was a really, really quick, basic introduction to to shape layers, and there's way more to them. We're just scratching the surface. So yeah, play around and definitely get a firm grasp of that trim paths option. Just before we go, one more thing as far as that trim paths is that there is another way to do it, and it's in effect, and then generate, and then stroke. And this works with paths as well that you get from Illustrator or other masks that you've created. I will post up a little tutorial link, LinkedIn Learning, to use the generate stroke option. So whenever you don't have the paths, you can generate that stroke, and you can draw your own mask over an existing shape. So say you get a PNG from a client, and there's you can't separate those elements in Illustrator. What you can do is just bring in that layer, and then go with your pen tool, trace it around, and then take that stroke option and reveal the logo that way. All right, so there you go. Play with trim paths and shapes, and morph them and bulge them and wiggle them and do all kinds of fun stuff, and come with questions. All right, so we'll see you in class. Cheers.